Yo, what's going on E7 fam? I'm Sue, and in this video I want to recap my thoughts on the December 3rd live stream and just kind of touch on the highlights and how I'm feeling about the game right now. If you haven't watched the original showcase, I will link it down in this video's description. But yeah, this is one of those throw it on your second monitor videos and kind of listen to me yap about all of my compiled thoughts on everything in the recent update, while I show you some pretty animations and some snippets from the actual showcase itself. First, let's talk about the decision to switch to the 3-week patch cycle. I think this is actually a really good change, as it lets the developers kind of more carefully set up a better story and, more importantly, better content pipeline. Their other game, Chaos Zero Nightmare, already uses this model, and many other games that I play, such as Goddess of Victory Ninke, which I praise all the time, uses it as well. Yes, you might feel like the 3-week cycle is a little long, as the third week usually kind of feels like it drags because you've done everything in the event, but usually that extended time frame is pretty good for everything else in your life. You have more free time to experience the other things that you might have going on in your personal life, and you won't feel as pressured to kind of make sure you clear everything in a hurry. Just the nature of it being longer makes it a lot more, I guess, comfy and cozy, and also the quality of the content that you do get is going to feel a bit higher because they're not as rushed. I think that overall, having the 9-week seasonal structure, just like with CZN, is a very good thing, and hopefully it should mean higher quality stories and gameplay in the long run. It also lines up pretty nicely, I feel like, with the balance adjustment patches that we get, because those are usually every 8 weeks to 9 weeks to begin with. So 9-week cycle, 9-week patch. Yeah, cool. So now each new season is going to feel like not only it has a story with it, but potentially some new meta shifting balance changes. Overall, very good change in my opinion. Next, let's talk about battle content and its kind of relation to this 3-week rotation, right? They are changing battle content so that way it matches the new release schedule. Currently, Automaton Tower and Hall of Trials are on 2-week cycles. Expedition and Trial of the Constellation are on 4-week cycles. With the release schedule being 3-week based now as opposed to 2-week based, they're kind of streamlining the content so that only certain gameplay modes are available in certain timeframes. So now, you'll only need to focus on 2 or 3 selected gameplay modes in a 3-week period and not have to worry about everything else. For example, one 3-week cycle may only have Automaton Tower, Trial of the Constellations, and Expedition open. That means that you don't have to worry about or even think about Hall of Trials for 3 weeks, giving you a break from that content. And to help supplement the lack of rewards from the missing Hall of Trials, the rewards you would have gotten from that can now be obtained from what looks like a battle pass or a shop. My first thought was that this was going to be a bad change. But then I remembered a talk I had with Valky and the community managers from about a year ago about how Epic 7 was this game that doesn't really respect the player's time, as Valky put it. If he really wanted to grind Epic 7 for several hours of the day and play a ton of PvP, he could absolutely do that. But what happens if he's really busy with work that day and he just wants to log in and get his dailies done because he's got more pressing things in his real life to deal with? It's still gonna take like 45 minutes to an hour to farm your hunts, do your arenas, do your guild wars, do your expeditions, clear Hall of Trials, etc. Now, with the recent updates since the anniversary, it's absolutely gotten faster, but Epic 7 is still the longest time sink out of any gacha game that I play. It's why I refer to it as a main game and not a side game. I can rapid fire through my Nikkei and CZN dailies in sub 10 minutes, no problem. When I used to play Zenless Zone Zero and Honkai Star Rail, I could finish my dailies in less than 5 minutes. Epic 7 is the only game where I am consistently spending 15 to 20 minutes plus to do everything with my dailies, so reducing the amount of stuff that I have to worry about on a daily and weekly basis, I think is a pretty good thing if I'm a busy individual. If you're a hardcore player though, I think you'll see this as less content overall. For most people though, I think this is a good change because you're probably busy with school or like a 9-to-5 job. And I think it's pretty important for the game to kind of respect your time in that aspect. And more importantly, I think it's a lot healthier for us overall if we feel less compelled to grind the game 24/7, even if we love that game. After the battle content, they moved on to talking about narrative changes and also unveiled the new main story content, An Elegy for a Dying Flame. This story appears to center around a new Moonlight version of Dien, as well as heroes like Aki, who first appeared on the Artifact Strat Gauntlet. I believe this is centered on Raz's, I guess, like 5th time through the world of Orbis, so we could just call it Epic 5. In addition, Issaria will appear in a new Moonlight version as well, being the wielder of the Elber's Ritual Sword, so you already know she's probably some broken Light Knight, as if we don't have enough of those already. The new release schedule allows them to segment pieces of the story and really flesh it out, at least that's what they say. My hope is that the same quality of Epic 7's Origin release is what we're going to be getting, especially since they let us know that the story will be fully voice acted. I know me, being the voice acting guy in the community, should be really excited about this change. But most gachas nowadays, this is the standard and it's not really a big deal. The gacha space has gotten more competitive. It has evolved. Seeing them announce full voice acting for the story is kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, it's been 7 years. You guys are late to the party at this point. Epic 7's narrative concept has always been really strong out the gate, but the actual execution and living up to that potential of the concept is far worse, I feel like, than any other gacha I've ever played. The story in this game isn't bad. It's just incredibly mid. And that mid feels really bad when you consider that there are plenty of other mid-story gacha games out there that put no effort into it. Epic 7 pours an incredible amount of resources into telling a story for its characters, so for it to feel mid most of the time makes it feel like a lot of development time and energy and resources are being wasted on it. If the narrative is a lost cause, you could have just spent that time fixing other problems with the game, and that's kind of how I feel, and some other people that I've talked about as well view the situation. That said, in this showcase, they are kind of committing to a stronger narrative and a bigger focus on it, so I hope that it pays off. I'm pretty lukewarm on everything here. Moving on, I'm going to skim over the episode jump, progression heroes, and tag system improvements, as I think these are features that only really matter to brand new players. Jump allows you to play the story in any order you want after clearing episode 1, so if you want to bolt to episode 5 to pick up a hero like Veronica easier and earlier, you can do that. Progression heroes are just freebie heroes to experience the new story content with, and the tag system changes allow players to tag back and forth between the supporters that they take with them in adventure mode. Cool stuff, but nothing really groundbreaking. Hall of Trials revamp comes after that, and honestly, I'm actually pretty happy about it, even if I think the changes are actually bad. Let me explain. Hall of Trials is my least favorite gameplay mode next to Standard Arena. I dread doing it every 2 weeks, and sometimes I even skip it. The old Hall of Trials was a gameplay mode that I actually kind of liked because it let me experiment with the roster and kind of figure things out my own way. And with the revamp of the gameplay, it just doesn't feel the same. It's just a gameplay mode that rewards you for pressing buttons in the right order with the newest gacha character. And the designers even said as much because they basically revealed that the design intent of each Hall of Trials is to show off the current gacha unit. So that's the problem. And then looking at the proposed solution, it's incredibly puzzling because now, instead of just showcasing the newest gacha unit, they're also going to make suggestions on, alternatives if you don't have the gacha unit. And then they want to make it so that the content is able to be autoed so that you could get 90% of the rewards by basically setting it and going AFK. And then the other players, the people that really want to sweat it out and manual it, they can fight for the top 10% of the rewards. So for me, someone who hates this gameplay mode, this is a great change because now I don't have to engage with it. I already wasn't, and I can still get rewarded for it. But when you look at it from the perspective of a designer, If people hate the content, shouldn't you have just changed the content to something that people would have liked better? This is kind of like an admission that we failed with the revamp. We'll just make it as easy and brainless as possible to align with the, new vision of not having to spend a ton of time on the game and just say, you know what, good enough, and then walk away from it. I don't know. This whole thing just feels really weird to me. Skimming ahead again, Automaton Tower will have its lesser used devices removed and replaced with new ones. We'll also be getting epic modification gems, which should have always been in the game. These basically give you the max roll when you use them, so no more RNG. They didn't really say how to get them. My assumption is what's at kind of whenever Advent comes back. Also, the changes to the manage equipment function for heroes, as well as an assistant to help you clean up your inventory, are going to be coming in the newest patch. These are things that were hinted at in the anniversary stream, and while they look nice, I don't really know how good they're going to actually be until I get my hands on them. Speaking of unsure of how good things are going to be until I get my hands on it, new equipment sets. Warfare set, acceleration set, and the pursuit set will all be coming on January 8th of next year. And honestly, I'm pretty mad that we're getting 3 new sets so soon after getting 2 new ones less than 10 weeks ago from when I record this video. And those 2 newer sets, Riposte and Reversal, those are going to be moved to Rift, which is content that almost no one engages with right now in Epic 7. And they didn't really specify what they were going to change, if anything, with Rift if I still need those sets. That does not really feel super great to me. I talk a little bit more about my thoughts on everything with the new gear in my Hecate impressions video, so I won't really retread it here. I will say, though, that depending on the final wording on all of these gear sets, Warfare might be a great set for PvE farming, for specifically Adventure, so that's at least a pretty good change. Overall, though, I'm really not a fan of the new gear being introduced, as it's another treadmill to run on that you need to use to get a proposed solution to work to an artificially created problem. The showcase concludes by talking about the new heroes, of which I've already done in the aforementioned impressions video for Hecate, but I will do more for the following 3 characters whenever they arrive. Additionally, they also announced the Moonlight Headhunt will be coming this December, so you already know that I'll be making a tier list with gear breakdowns for each character when it drops, so that way you can make sure that you are choosing the right character for your account. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure to get subscribed to the channel. And if you like what I do here, consider supporting me on Patreon, linked in the video's description. Overall, the showcase was solid, giving us a vision for how the game will conduct itself in 2026. Some of the content is potentially very, very exciting, but some of this stuff, as you can tell by my tone, is pretty questionable. I think from a PvE side of things, we're going to be eating really, really well. But I think that the PvP side desperately needs a ton of help right now in Epic 7. But those are just my opinions. Let me know how you felt about everything in this showcase down in the comments section below. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.